Assalamualaikum to everyone. Kipasa, bonjour. What's up with you guys? What's up, guys? It's your boy, the name of Flash Guy. Today we're gonna learn some math skills. Let's get started. Today we're gonna learn addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Working harder to learn shapes. Let's get started. What do you think 43 minus 7 is? This is between 4th grade to 6th grade math. If you don't know, it's okay. It's just a example for getting you ready for 4th grade. If you do know, it's okay. And 3rd grader too. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do we're gonna learn some we're gonna learn we're gonna learn someone is who is special to us. Let's get started. The name of is Jameson Madison. Let's get started.
Dear Tim and Moby, who was James Madison and what did he do? From Jessica. James Madison was the 4th President of the United States and one of America's most important political philosophers. For writing much of the U.S. Constitution and the entire Bill of Rights, he's known as the father of the Constitution. Madison was born in 1751 in Virginia to a large family of wealthy farmers. Growing up, James was frail and sickly, but he was tireless in his studies, even to the point of risking his health. Madison entered politics at 25 as a delegate in Virginia's state legislature. It was 1776, the start of the American Revolution. Well, during the war, the 13 states organized a central government under the Articles of Confederation. This document formed a weak national Congress and reserved the bulk of power for the states. When the war ended, Madison and many others felt that a stronger federal government was needed to keep order and unify the nation. These Federalists envisioned a country where the state and national governments shared power. On the other side were the Anti-Federalists, who strongly supported states' rights, the idea that each state should be able to control its own affairs. The Federalists' moment came in 1787, when delegates from 12 states met to discuss changes to the Articles of Confederation. This later became known as the Constitutional Convention. Representing his home state, Madison proposed a strong federal government with 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. Yep, it was actually very close to the Constitution that eventually passed. But passing it was just the beginning. 9 states had to ratify or approve the Constitution for it to go into effect. At the time, there was no guarantee of that happening. Americans feared that a strong national government would be as bad as the British monarchy they had just finished fighting. To convince them otherwise, Madison and fellow Federalists Alexander Hamilton and John Jay published a series of anonymous essays in the New York press. Known today as the Federalist Papers, they were an eloquent, reasoned defense of the kind of democracy laid out in the Constitution. By 1789, 9 states had ratified the Constitution, making it official. But several key states, including New York and Virginia, hadn't yet voted. To win these and other states over, Madison agreed to a Bill of Rights. These first 10 amendments to the Constitution provided clear personal protections against government power. The move worked. By 1790, all 13 states had ratified the Constitution. Well, with the new government established, Madison served 4 terms in Congress, where he became a vocal critic of the first 2 presidents. When George Washington created a national bank and a standing army, Madison denounced both as unconstitutional. He was also critical when John Adams passed laws cracking down on free speech. Madison still believed in a strong central government, but he thought some of these expansions of power went too far. So he joined forces with Thomas Jefferson to create the Democratic-Republican political party. Its rival was the Federalist Party, created by Madison's former ally, Alexander Hamilton. Jefferson was elected president in 1800, and he chose Madison as Secretary of State. Since Jefferson was widowed, Madison's wife Dolly acted as official White House hostess. Riding Jefferson's popularity, Madison was elected president in 1808. Well, at first he stayed focused on limiting federal power. He refused to renew the National Bank's charter, and it expired in 1811. But he came to regret that decision when the War of 1812 broke out. Britain had been provoking the United States in a number of ways. So Madison asked Congress to declare war in June of 1812. But with no national bank to borrow from, he had trouble financing the war. To make matters worse, both Jefferson and Madison had greatly reduced the size of the military. So the powerful British Navy interfered with American trade and raided cities up and down the coast. In 1814, British troops occupied Washington, D.C. and burned the White House. But the United States held its own, scoring victories along the border of Canada and in the South. In December of 1814, the two countries came to their senses and signed the Treaty of Ghent, ending the war. And after all that, Madison ended up changing his positions. Before leaving office, he oversaw the formation of a new national bank, and he strengthened the military, two things he'd have opposed in the past. Yeah, he learned from his experiences instead of clinging to ideals. Anyway, Madison retired to his family's plantation in Virginia, where he died in 1836. Well, here we are, Madison Square Garden and the 5th Annual Convention of History Buffs, Enthusiasts, Mavens, and Aficionados. Sorry, but we're out of time.
The next thing we're gonna do is not the next thing we're gonna do. The next thing we're not is voting. Why is voting important for the USA? Let's get started.
Welcome to Brain Pop News. We're counting down to November 3rd, Election Day 2020, and urging every grown-up and their mom to vote. I know I'm on the edge of my seat to find out who will be elected president. The incumbent or current office holder, President Donald Trump, or the challenger, Joe Biden, who served as vice president under Barack Obama. Plus, there are a slew of senators, representatives, governors, and others up for election around the country. So bring it on, Election Night 2020. Okay, make that election month 2020. COVID-19 has slowed everything down this year. But some stuff is still the same, like how you win. For a quick review of that, let's turn to our senior map guy, Tim.
Thanks, Nat. Most U.S. elections follow a pretty simple rule. Whoever gets the most votes wins. But presidential elections are not so straightforward. You can think of it like an elaborate game with a complicated scoring system. Instead of competing for individual votes, candidates are trying to win these electoral votes. That's a number assigned to each state based on its population. The more people who live in a state, the more electoral votes it gets. There are 538 in total. The candidate who can get a majority of those, 270 or more, wins the election. So, on Election Day, each state begins to count up its residents' votes. And in every state but Maine and Nebraska, whoever gets the majority wins all of that state's electoral votes. That process repeats for every state in the Union, with each candidate adding all their votes to their total. This system is known as the Electoral College. Biden is a Democrat, so he can likely count on winning these solid blue states. And Trump, a Republican, can count on these solid red states. Swing states are the real battlegrounds of a presidential election. They swing between the Democratic and Republican candidates from election to election. So their electoral votes tend to swing elections one way or the other. This election, the states in hottest contention include Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Their electoral votes are most likely to swing the election. You can learn way more about the path to the presidency in our presidential election topic. But Nat can tell you more about election night.
Thanks, Tim. On election day, voting sites close in the evening. Times vary state to state. Then, news outlets start reporting on results. You might hear that a candidate is leading in a certain state based on, say, 60% of precincts reporting. That means for every 10 voting districts there, 6 have reported a winner. More data comes from exit polls, interviews with voters about who they voted for. Eventually, there's enough data to predict a winner in the state, though occasionally, the projections get corrected as more info comes in. By late at night, we usually know who's won the presidency. Even though all the votes still haven't been counted, ballots that are mailed in might not get tallied until weeks later. But there are usually so few of these that they don't change the outcome. Right, this year is far from usual. Because of the pandemic, lots of people aren't voting in person. They're voting by mail. Mail-in ballots could make up half or more of the votes, which is likely to make tallying the results a little slow. Depending on how close the race is, it may take a long time to determine the winner, like days or even weeks. Since, for starters, lots of ballots will still be coming in after Election Day. In a lot of states, mail-in ballots don't have to be received by Election Day. They just have to be postmarked by then, meaning that the post office has received and processed them. And in some states, officials aren't allowed to start counting mailed ballots until Election Day. It takes time for election workers to open envelopes, flatten out ballots, and verify voter signatures. But remember, mail-in ballots count just as much as those cast in person. So we need to let the process work and make sure every vote gets counted. A few states have been doing elections completely by mail for a while, and people there are used to waiting for results. Patience is just part of the deal. In other words, an early lead on election night doesn't guarantee a win. So if any candidate is claiming early victory, be skeptical. That goes for news sources too. Remember that some commentators may want a particular candidate to win, and media outlets more aligned with one party could be quick to draw conclusions about who won. If that gets shared around enough, it could create a false narrative and damage the public trust in the election.
If you're looking for a really reliable projection, go to the Associated Press. They're an independent cooperative made up of thousands of reporters. Bottom line is, even though this year's election is kind of different, even if the results take a while to come in, when all is said and done, the results will be just as rock solid as any other year.
And newsflash, this stuff really matters. The president and other elected officials make decisions that have a big impact on your life, from education to immigration to policing. So please remind the adults in your life to vote.
Pretty please.
Oh yeah, we gotta run. Moby and I are driving people to the polls. Thanks for joining.
Hello? Am I still on? This isn't very professional.
The next thing we're gonna learn is the president. I think the president. The next thing we're gonna learn is mathematician. Let's get started.
How does a robot keep beating me? Dear Tim and Moby, how do you convert data from a table to a graph? Thanks, Taylor. Well, to convert data to a graph from a table of values like this one, you need to know about coordinate planes. A plane is a flat surface with length and width, but no depth. In other words, it has 2 dimensions instead of 3. And it has no edges, sort of like a piece of paper that goes on forever. Oh, well, planes aren't real. They're imaginary models of space. A coordinate plane is a plane overlaid with 2 perpendicular number lines. Those lines help you find any point on the plane. It's also known as a Cartesian plane, after René Descartes, the guy who developed the idea way back in 1637. Basically, he drew 2 perpendicular lines in the middle of a plane and called the place where the lines intersect the origin. One line represents the horizontal distance from the origin. We call that the x-axis. The other line represents vertical distance from the origin. That's called the y-axis. These lines help us find our way around the plane. Well, everything starts from the origin. The coordinates, or the address of the origin, are 0, 0. That means to find the origin, you have to move 0 units horizontally and 0 units vertically. The set of numbers that describes a point is called an ordered pair because the order of the numbers matters. For instance, 2, 3 is different from 3, 2. The first number tells you the address of a point on the x-axis, while the second number tells you the address of a point on the y-axis. So, to find the point described by the ordered pair 2, 3, you'd start by looking at the first number, the x-coordinate. It tells you to go 2 units to the right. Next, you look at the second number, the y-coordinate, which tells you to go 3 units up. Now I'm at the point 2, 3. But if you were finding the point described by the ordered pair 3, 2, you start out by going 3 units to the right and then 2 units up. We're in totally different places. Each section of the coordinate plane is called a quadrant because there are 4 of them. You can always predict what quadrant a point will fall in by looking at the positive and negative numbers. Quadrant 1 has all the points with a positive x-coordinate and a positive y-coordinate, like 2, 3. Quadrant 2 has all the points with a negative x-coordinate and a positive y-coordinate, like negative 2, 3. Quadrant 3 has all the points with a negative x-coordinate and a negative y-coordinate, like negative 2, negative 3. And Quadrant 4... Quadrant 4 has all the points with a positive x-coordinate and a negative y-coordinate, like 2, negative 3. You can remember that x comes first because, well, x comes before y in the alphabet. Nope, this doesn't help me win in chess at all. Play again?
The next thing we're gonna learn is a kind of a soft. Some of your favorite sports, which call basketball. Let's get started. Why is basketball important? Let's get started.
Put me in, coach. I got game. Come on, I haven't played all season. Dear Tim and Moby, can you give me some tips on how to play basketball? Thanks, Bethany. I am qualified. I've watched plenty of games. Basketball is a team sport in which players score points by throwing a ball through the opposing team's basket or hoop. With its fast-paced action and high-flying moves, it's one of the most popular sports in the world. It all started back in 1891 in a gym in Springfield, Massachusetts. Dr. James Naismith, a physical education teacher, was looking for a way to keep his students active while they were stuck inside for the winter. So he nailed a peach basket to the wall, gave his students a soccer ball, and came up with the rules for a new game. Put me in, coach. I got game. Come on, I haven't played all season. Dear Tim and Moby, can you give me some tips on how to play basketball? Thanks, Bethany. I am qualified. I've watched plenty of games. Basketball is a team sport in which players score points by throwing a ball through the opposing team's basket or hoop. With its fast-paced action and high-flying moves, it's one of the most popular sports in the world. It all started back in 1891 in a gym in Springfield, Massachusetts. Dr. James Naismith, a physical education teacher, was looking for a way to keep his students active while they were stuck inside for the winter. So he nailed a peach basket to the wall, gave his students a soccer ball, and came up with the rules for a new game. Yeah, there have been a few changes since then. For one thing, the game has developed its own special equipment and gear. Okay, on to the rules. A typical game runs between 40 and 48 minutes. Depending on the league and the level of play, it's broken into 4 quarters or 2 halves. But the clock stops during timeouts, fouls, and when the ball goes out of bounds, so a complete game can last 2 or 3 hours. The playing surface is called a court. It usually has wooden floors and a 10-foot-high basket at either end. 5 players from each team move back and forth, switching between offense and defense. The team with the ball is on offense. They try to put the ball through the other team's hoop. Meanwhile, the defense tries to prevent them from scoring. If the offense scores, the other team gets the ball. Right, that's called dribbling. The player with the ball can walk or run anywhere on the court as long as she keeps bouncing the ball. The other way to move the ball is by passing or throwing it to a teammate. If a player gets close enough to the opponent's basket, she can try to score points by shooting the ball through the hoop. A shot made from any spot inside this arc gets 2 points. That's called the 3-point line because any shot made from behind that line is worth 3 points instead of 2. Defensively, a player can do a lot to prevent the other team from scoring. She can try to block a shot or steal the ball. Or she can try to disrupt the other team's rhythm and its ability to take good shots. But if she's not careful, she might get called for a personal foul for illegal physical contact. The fouled player might be awarded free throws. In that case, the game stops as she takes 1-point shots from the foul line. Be nice. The referees are there to make sure everyone plays by the rules. It's their job to call fouls, as well as other violations like traveling, double dribbling, goaltending, 24-second... Sorry. Anyway, in addition to all these rules, the way the game is played has evolved over the years. Today's coaches draw up complex offensive plays and defensive formations. Players now have specific positions according to their sizes and skills. The tallest players fill the center and forward positions, while faster players who are better shooters and dribblers play the guard positions. And exciting plays like the alley-oop and slam dunk have become highlights of the modern game. You're not the only one with basketball fever. Shooting hoops is now as popular as playing baseball. Fans crowd in front of televisions and pack into arenas to watch both pro and college games.
And even though basketball was invented in the United States, the sport has really gone global. Stars from places like Europe and Asia play in the NBA, and many countries now have their own professional leagues. Really? You're finally putting me in? I demand to be traded. Okay, I'll give you an Albert Pujols and a Dontrell Willis for your David Wright rookie card. Hey Moby, what are you looking at?
The next thing we're gonna do is how to learn how to go up for obstacles. Let's get started.
Hey Moby, what are you looking at? Hey, those are my baby pictures. I know I was naked. I was a baby. Hi, Tim and Moby. I was just wondering when babies say their first word. Thanks, Kara. That depends on the baby, but it often happens sometime during infancy. Infancy is the first stage in life. A baby is considered an infant between birth and 1 year of age. During infancy, a baby will develop quickly, both mentally and physically. Infants have a lot of firsts. Most of them will smile, sit up straight, laugh, pick things up, stand, and even walk for the very first time. I know those things don't seem so impressive to you, but they're big steps in a baby's development. Yep, that's a picture of me looking at a mobile. Newborns actually like looking at black, white, and red patterns in toys because of the contrasting colors. As they get a little older, they like to look at bright colors and shiny objects, which helps encourage their visual development. If you ever held a baby, you may have noticed that they like to grab everything and put it in their mouth. Well, infants learn a lot by touching, feeling, and tasting. Yeah, it would be easier if they just asked questions. Babies usually say their first words sometime around their first birthdays. Until that happens, they'll make babbling noises. An infant's first meal will usually be his mother's breast milk. It contains all the nutrients he needs. Infant formula is an alternative to breast milk, and it contains most of the same nutrients. Most babies aren't ready for solid foods until about 4 to 6 months. When they are ready, they'll usually start with cereal. Well, babies aren't usually born with teeth. But at around 6 months, they start growing teeth in a process called teething. Teething can be pretty uncomfortable, so babies will chew and bite on toys to help ease the pain. They'll also drool a lot, even if they're not teething. Babies can't really control their bodily functions. They usually wear diapers until they are more than 2 years old. Oh, it's not that gross. Everyone was a baby once. Hey, where'd you get this baby? Seriously, whose baby is this?
The next thing we're gonna learn is emotion skills. Let's get started.
Thank you. Ow! A bagel with locks. That's pretty funny. Dear Tim and Moby, What's the difference between a synonym, an antonym, and a homonym? From Gogol. Let's take care of homonyms first. Homonyms are pairs of words that have different meanings but are spelled or pronounced the same.
If you learn this word meaning you don't know anymore, it's easy for you. Let's get started.
Homonyms that sound the same are called homophones. Homonyms that are spelled the same are called homographs. Let's take the three words bass, bass, and bass. Bass and bass are homographs. They're spelled the same, but they have different meanings. Bass and bass are homophones. They sound the same, but have different spellings and meanings. Well, you can usually tell which homophone the speaker means by listening to the rest of the sentence. If I say, I slid into third base, can you tell which of the two homophones I mean? That's right, it's B-A-S-E. Synonyms aren't so confusing. They're just words that mean the same thing, like gigantic and huge. Both words are adjectives meaning big. They're what we call synonymous. You try it. Let's take the word brave. Which of these three words is a synonym for brave? Let's look at intelligent. It means the same thing as smart, which isn't synonymous with brave. On to dangerous. Dangerous describes something that might cause loss or injury, so we can cross that off. We're left with courageous. Courageous describes a person ready to face danger. That sounds synonymous with brave, don't you think? That's true. There can be more than two synonyms, just like there can be more than two homonyms. I can think of lots of synonyms for brave, like gutsy, fearless, and bold. I was just getting to that. Antonyms are words that mean the opposite of each other. Like, say, fast and slow, stop and go, love and hate. Just like synonyms, any word can have lots of antonyms. Let's take the adjective clean. You can probably think of a ton of antonyms for clean, like dirty, filthy, grimy, dusty, foul, muddy, unwashed. The list goes on and on. Yeah, you're right. Words that mean opposite things can be called antonymous to each other. It's not as commonly used as the word synonymous, though. By the way, can I please have my bagel with L-O-X now? Kinda hungry here. You're trying to think of a homonym for bagel, aren't you?
The next thing I'm gonna learn is part of your feelings. Let's get started. And your behavior. Let's get started. Well, we watched this video. Think of this. Do you like someone to bully you? If you don't, think again twice before you bully someone. But you know, bullying people is not nice. Let's get started.
Hang on. What's this? Dear Tim and Malik, kids at school pick on me and make fun of my clothes. They also call me names. What should I do? From Charlotte. Oh gosh, I hate that. This older kid named Craig used to pick on me when I was in the second grade. He called me names like Nerd Boy and Smarty Pants. Oh yeah, and Four Eyes. That was real original. Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that name. Never quite figured that one out. Well, enough about that. Bullying is when a person repeatedly does or says things to feel like they have some kind of power over another person. It can take many forms. We've already covered name calling. Bullying can also be making fun of someone, leaving them out of activity, taking their stuff, forcing them to do things they don't want to do, and even physically hurting them. Anything that does make someone feel bad or unsafe can be bullying, as far as I'm concerned. If you're getting bullied, you have to use your head. There are some things that you can do if someone's being mean to you. You can ignore them and just walk away whenever they start bothering you. Try surrounding yourself with friends. It's not as easy to pick on a big group of people. In some cases, you can let them know that they're making you feel bad. They might not even realize that they're being mean to you. And remember, it's okay to tell an adult what's going on, even if you think the situation is under control. Parents, teachers, and school counselors are there to help you deal with tough issues like bullying. They can help those bullying understand that their behavior is wrong. Well, they might not even be thinking about the fact that you're a person with feelings who can be hurt. Which brings me to my last point. If you ever find yourself being mean to someone else for no good reason, please don't. Everyone's been bullied at one point or another, so you know how it feels when someone's picking on you. It doesn't feel good. And it doesn't make you any bigger or better. What does make you bigger and better is being nice to someone for no good reason. That always impresses me. Yeah, it's always cooler to have friends than enemies.
Oh, hey, Greg. Oh, hey, Tim. How's it going?
The next thing is how to get help. Let's get started.
I want to do it myself. Dear Tim and Moby, people are telling me to get help at school. How do I know if I even need it? Where do I start? From Jamie. Well, everybody needs help now and then. Some of us need it a lot of the time. Okay. Oh, that's what the problem was asking for? Thanks. It's not always easy to ask for help, but asking for help helps everybody. Well, no, I do it myself. Dear Tim and Moby, people are telling me to get help at school. How do I know if I even need it? Where do I start? Jamie. Well, everybody needs help now and then. Some of us need it a lot of the time. That's what the problem is It's not always easy to ask for help, but asking for help helps everybody. Well, the first step to making things better for yourself is to know when you need help. You might be hearing a lot of people say that you should get help. If that's happening, it's a good idea to pay attention to what they're saying. Mr. Gibbons wants me to stay after class for some extra practice with math. Sometimes you feel it in your body when you need it. I get really nervous and my stomach starts to hurt when I feel overwhelmed by class moving too fast for me, or when I'm having trouble with friends or classmates. That can make me really sad and depressed even. Right, you don't have to feel that way. You can ask for help in person, by writing a note or email, or even over the phone. There are plenty of people you can ask. There's teachers, friends, relatives, neighbors, other students, tutors, counselors. And those are just a few of the options. Asking for help can be a scary sentence.
The next thing we're gonna learn is the planet system, the solar system. Let's get started.
They form a gas giant, like Jupiter. The sun is not all that big compared to other stars. But for us, the most important one around, the 8 planets in our solar system, which are satellites of the sun. That means they travel around it in an orbit. The 4 inner planets are much smaller than the 4 outer ones. Mercury is closest to the sun. It kind of looks like our moon. It spins really slowly, just 1.5 times for every trip around the sun. On one side, it's so hot, and the other gets so cold. No, you couldn't go there. You'd probably melt or freeze. Venus is sometimes called Earth's sister planet because of the similar size. Its atmosphere is filled with carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas. That means it traps the sun's heat. The surface of Venus can get close to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, you definitely melt on Venus. The third from the sun is Earth, where we live. It's got perfect conditions for plants and animals, not too hot and not too cold. That means lots of liquid water, which all life depends on. Mars is called the red planet because of its reddish surface. That's caused by the high iron content in Martian rocks. Mars has 2 moons, Phobos. It's nearly 3 times the height of called the Great Red Spot. It's way bigger than our entire planet. It's been raging for centuries. Around Jupiter, there are almost 70 moons. The first were discovered hundreds of years ago by Galileo Galilei. They're called the Galileans, and they're almost like little planets.
Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna helicopter. Let's get started.
Yes, I'm gonna pay cash. Is there a problem? Can we speed it up? I haven't got all day. Ah. Are you capable of doing this? Can I talk to your manager? I'd like to speak to your manager. This is taking far
maanta
too
hawsha waa
long.
culus tahay bal buugaygi weynaa ee xusuus qorka
حلا waxay keenaysaa ma jirto xusuus qorka markaad tidhaahdid bay kuu keenaysaa qor
abugaygi waa jabatish
mayba isagii
isagiiba ye laa sugta ayba binin